Hello friends, I am Dr. Sarika, Assistant Professor in Pediatrics at Sardar Patel Medical College, Bikaner, and I am here with my another video on approach to anemia in neonates. How do we approach a neonate who is anemic? So what is the definition? It is either the low erythrocyte mass or low hemoglobin, which defines anemia. So based on various studies, if hemoglobin levels in a newborn is less than 13 gram percent, then it is considered abnormal. So what can be the causes? The causes may be either there is decreased production of red blood cells, or there is increased destruction of red blood cells, that is because of hemolysis, or there is blood loss, either an internal bleed or external bleed. Okay. So a few important or few interesting points I would like to tell you at this point, that is there any effect of sampling site on hemoglobin levels? Yes, in infants it is. So you will be surprised to know that if you measure the capillary hemoglobin level by pricking the heel and simultaneously you take a sample, a venous blood sample, then you will find a higher level in capillary blood sample. Okay, that is there because of poor circulation and stasis in the peripheral vessels, and this difference is more pronounced in sick children who are having a poor peripheral circulation. So this difference persists through the first 6 weeks to 3 months of life. And to minimize this difference, what we do that we pre-warm the heel before collection of the capillary sample. Okay, so warming of heel will reverse the poor circulation and stasis in the peripheral vessels. Then the another important and interesting point is there any correlation of capillary hematocrit levels and total erythrocyte mass? As we see in adults, there is a linear correlation between the two. Means the capillary hematocrit level will very well correlate with the total erythrocyte mass. And you know, erythrocyte mass is the best measurement of anemia. But to your or to my surprise, in infants, the correlation between the two, that is between the erythrocyte mass and hemoglobin values, is poor. And it becomes important in ill infants due to poor peripheral circulation. And how do we measure the erythrocyte mass? The gold standard for this is chromium labeled erythrocytes, that is chromium 51. So these two interesting points I will tell you through these graphs. Okay, so these are the graphs from two studies which have been done. So here in this graph, this y-axis is formed with the hematocrit, that is percent, and the cases number, and these black dots, as you know, these black dots are showing the capillary hematocrit value, and these open circles are showing venous hematocrit values. So you can very well see that these black dots are higher than the open circles. Okay, so and these two lines are showing the mean values of the hematocrit. So you can see very well that capillary hematocrit values are higher than the venous hematocrit values. Okay, so when we pre-warm the heel before taking the capillary sample, we can minimize this difference. Okay, then this is the another graph which is showing you the relation of red cell mass, that is erythrocyte mass, in ml per kg with the capillary hematocrit value. So you can see very well that the dots are scattered on the sides of this line. Okay, so there are much differences between the two, and this has been done on 135 premature infants in whom the difference are more pronounced. Okay, so how do we work up a newborn who is anemic? So you know, the first week of life, the causes of anemia or the list of disorders which are causing anemia is longest one as compared to other phases of life. So as in the diagnosis of other conditions, here also the history remains the most important part. So if we take the family history of the child, you may find that other members in the family are suffering from a blood disorder, that is hereditary spherocytosis. You may find a family history of unexplained episodes of anemia, jaundice, cholelithiasis, or splenectomy, which gives an indication that yes, this child may also have, or this infant may also have hereditary spherocytosis. Then some enzymatic defects RBCs also run in families. Then maternal history. Maternal history is also very important because some of the diseases are more prevalent in some ethnic groups as compared to others. So that is important. Then medication history in the mother is also very important. Say if we find a pale infant at the time of birth and we ask the mother, you had any exposure to naphthalene balls, then if mother says yes, then you should think that yes, this child or this baby may be a case of G6PD deficiency who had an hemolysis, intravascular hemolysis precipitated by exposure to naphthalene. So the maternal history is very important. Then the obstetric history can also lead us to the diagnosis of anemia or the cause of anemia, like you should take whether there is any history of vaginal bleeding during pregnancy. Are there any cause of antepartum hemorrhages like placenta previa or abruptio placentae? Were there vasa previa, or is there any history suggestive of traumatic birth? Because traumatic birth, like a difficult breech delivery, may cause a rupture of intra-abdominal organs and that may cause a internal bleed and child may be anemic. Then cord rupture is another cause of, and multiple births are also causes of bleeding from the fetal side. So we should inquire so that we can reach to some cause of anemia. Then age at which anemia is first noticed also gives us clue towards the cause of anemia. So if a child is markedly pale at the time of birth, then it may be because of some hemorrhage, significant hemorrhage or alloimmunization. Then the anemia that is noticed during the first 2 days of life may be because of external or internal hemorrhages. Okay, but anemia appearing after first 48 hours of life is most commonly hemolytic and usually associated with jaundice. Then coming to the algorithm, which will tell you that how should we proceed in a child or in an infant with anemia. So if we find if a child is looking pale, an infant is looking pale, and you go for a measurement of hemoglobin levels and you find a decreased hemoglobin concentration, then we should go for first the reticulocyte count. If it is low, so why reticulocytes are increased in the blood? They are increased as a result of this is a response of bone marrow to the blood loss. Okay, so more immature forms will be released in the circulation. But if the reticulocyte count is low, that means the bone marrow is not responding. So the cause may be a congenital hypoplastic anemia like Diamond-Blackfan anemia. If reticulocyte counts are normal or high, then we should proceed with Coombs test, that is direct Coombs test on infant's blood. Okay, if it is positive, then it gives us a clue that it may be an immune hemolytic anemia because of RH incompatibility, ABO incompatibility or minor blood group incompatibilities. But you may find a negative. So here one thing which you should keep in mind, that direct Coombs test, that is DCT, is strongly positive in cases of RH incompatibility. It is weakly positive in cases of ABO incompatibility. Okay, but it is positive. Okay, then Coombs test may be negative. So if Coombs test is negative, then please look for mean corpuscular volume, MCV. If it is low, then it can tell you that the anemia may be because of chronic intrauterine blood loss, which occurs because of feto-maternal hemorrhage, which may be a small amount repeated blood loss. Okay, in that condition you will find a low MCV. Okay, then MCV may be normal or high. So if MCV is normal or high, then we should give a look at the peripheral blood smear. So because peripheral smear may give you to a clue that yes, this child is having a particular type of anemia. Like in hereditary spherocytosis, you will find spherocytes in the blood smear. In hereditary elliptocytosis, you will find elliptical red blood cells, and more frequently you will find a poikilocytosis. Okay, then in G6PD deficiency, which is also an important cause of anemia in commonly the male infants, then you will find hinge bodies in the RBCs because of denatured hemoglobin. Okay, peripheral blood smear may be normal. Then there are other causes, like the important one is blood loss. That blood loss may be iatrogenic, maybe a fetomaternal or fetoplacental hemorrhage in which blood loss is from the fetal side leading to anemia, or it may be a twin transfusion. So what is iatrogenic blood loss? You know, for the preterm babies or preterm sick babies or term sick babies which are kept in the NICU for the care. So if we monitor the child or we take a daily blood sample, then there is a possibility that this child may get anemic. So it is said that if 20% of the blood volume is taken or removed from a subject's body, then that leads to anemia. So if a 1.5 kg baby is there, then even a 25 ml amount will be a significant for him to cause to develop anemia. Okay, so to diagnose this condition, what we should do, that we should try to maintain a flow sheet in which we note every time the amount we are removing for the blood sampling or for the investigations. Okay, then the another is fetomaternal and fetoplacental hemorrhages may be there, and this we find out with the help of Kleihor Betke count, okay, in which we see for fetal red blood cells in the maternal smear. Then twin transfusion, what is this? That it happens in monozygotic multiple births with monochorionic placenta. So what happens, that one twin becomes the donor and the other becomes recipient. So there is actually blood exchange between the twins. Okay, so there is anemia in the donor and the recipient twin becomes polycythemic. Okay, then what you will find, that if significant hemorrhage has occurred between the two, then the difference of hemoglobin will be more than 5 gram% between the twins. Okay, this twin transfusion may be acute or may be chronic. So how do we know that whether it is a chronic hemorrhage? So we go for measurement of weight of the babies. So if the weight difference is more than 20% of the weight of the larger twin, that means that transfusion is chronic and the smaller twin is donor. If difference is less than 20% of the larger twin, then most of the time the larger twin is donor in the 50% of the cases. Okay, so this is how we know whether it is a chronic twin transfusion. Okay, then infection may also be an important cause of anemia, and in these conditions Coombs test will be negative, MC will be normal or high, or peripheral smear will also be normal. So in Clostridium welchii sepsis may be a cause. Then torch infections, torch group of organisms are also an important cause of anemia. Okay, so in that you may find associated thrombocytopenia, or you may find hepatosplenomegaly, chorioretinitis may be there. Okay, so these other findings will give you will lead you to the diagnosis. Then so what investigations we have to go for if we find a newborn with anemia that is below 13 gram% hemoglobin levels? Okay, so we go for reticulocyte count, we go for a DCT of the infant's blood, we go for a peripheral blood smear examination, we go for a Kleihor technique of acid elution. Then sometimes occurred blood loss is there because of traumatic delivery. So in that condition, ultrasound of the head or abdomen will give you the diagnosis. So from the history and these studies, diagnosis can often be made, or at least the list of diagnostic possibilities can be shortened. Then if anemia persists without evidence of hemolysis or blood loss, then in that condition we should go for a bone marrow examination to rule out hypoplastic anemias. Thank you so much for your patience listening.